Hello everyone, I'm Eleni Meletiadou and I'm happy to present this research project I conducted leading a team of several lectures. Among these was Nirmala, who is the co-presenter of this presentation. So I'm delighted to be here at the London Met PGR Student and Staff Research Conference. We're definitely trying to take small steps to make sure that we can improve the world we are currently living in through our research. So I'm delighted to talk about women in finance and how we can close the gaps in the academy and the industry. So I'm delighted to present you my team. I was the principal investigator of this project, and I worked together with the amazing Nirmala, who is also co-presenting this with me. Dr. Tuta Hazizi from the University of Elbasan in Albania, Dr. Aysun Kahraman from Manisa University in Turkey, Dr. Somaye Puransari from the University of Hertfordshire, and Dr. Sivan Karakis from Coventry University, UK. So a mixture of UK and international universities. Um, At this point, let me tell you that this is an ongoing project. There are other universities involved, but I'm still waiting for them to complete their findings, the collection of the data of their data. So I cannot really include them in this presentation unless they do so. So this is an overview of our presentation. We'll start by providing an introduction to this study. We'll talk about the research methods, some of the preliminary findings, since this is an ongoing study, some of the limitations, also implications for research and practice, and finally, I will discuss about ways in which we can further develop this project, and you will also see my references, my list of references. So the literature on women in finance reveals that women are an endangered species, as male employees tend to maintain the status quo. So in Europe, for example, women represent less than 50% of people that work in finance. Research indicates that women are risk averse and avoid entering competitive professions, the so-called self-selection theory. So taking into consideration the focus on NEDI, which has been further supported by the gender pay gap legislation in the UK. Generally, people avoid companies with large gender pay gaps, urging them to take positive action, as these also want to attract talent, according to the CIPD. So the FCA, for example, reports only 17% of positions are held by women. So there are attempts to understand the underrepresentation of females in these roles, for example, both in the academy but also in the industry. And the current study wishes to explore female employees' experience in finance and identify the barriers which prevent them from entry or progression in finance, both in the academy and in the industry. Despite considerable research exploring the inequalities women in finance face, very few studies use qualitative methods to explore the experiences of women working within the sector. Moreover, although senior management teams within the industry have hired young female graduates and invested in their development into senior executive positions, there are still obstacles, both real and perceived, challenging women nowadays. So, using theories of gender performativity, the social closure theory, and the theory of hegemonic masculinity, we try to depict female employees' challenges in their career progression, in both in the academy but also in the industry. So this study utilizes an exploratory multiple case study design to explore a particular contemporary phenomenon within its real life context. The main aim of this study will be to build theory to answer its why questions, as theory building requires rich description, research that comes from anecdote, as we say. So for this study, Interviews were conducted via video call, basically via video call. The study utilized opportunity and snowball sampling processes, and the participants, of course, signed an informed consent form that promised their anonymity. All qualitative data were analyzed using thematic analysis. As we said, we had our sample consisted of 76 women working in finance, both academy and industry. There were 6 universities involved and various other financial organizations. So we used lengthy semi-structured online interviews, and we also gathered 51 online surveys. Let me tell you at this point that we use snowball sampling and thematic content analysis. And there are such questions that we try um, to respond to were why women face barriers in terms of the career advancement in finance, and which are the barriers women in finance face in terms, for example, of their career advancement. So the aim of the study was to understand the barriers that they faced. We conducted these semi-structured interviews, but we also asked these women to fill in these online surveys. And we believe that implication of the findings will be discussed later on to unveil the gender challenges that women still face in finance. Yeah. Let me tell you at this point that in terms of the online service, that is our quantitative findings. We used SPSS to analyze them. So again, I would like to remind you that we have not analyzed all our data. We are just presenting preliminary findings right now. So preliminary findings indicate that despite the growth in student diversity in higher education, female academics in finance remain missing in action. They struggle getting in and getting on, and studies have pointed to their flight, especially from the industry, but also from the academy, driven out by a discriminatory and psychologically hostile culture. There are diminished numbers in professorial and senior leadership roles. And the aim of the project is to help diversify the academic pipeline, supporting women in finance. It also wishes to offer recommendations for fair recruitment, selection, and progression. And our aspiration as a research team and of myself as the leader of this team is to make a small step towards a more promising future for women in finance, encouraging an increase in the number of women who consider and apply for opportunities within male-dominated industries. So some of our preliminary findings indicate that promoting more women as managers may, or for example, as professors, may change the perception of women as professionals in finance. Female professionals indicated that they had to avoid talking about their families and even hide their femininity to increase their prestige in their workplace. This is also what women in other fields like science, for example, have reported in other studies that I have conducted. The so-called boys club, okay, is one of the barriers to advancement for example, in the IB profession, but also in the academy, as men have more direct access to key positions. Also, being a caregiver was one of the most significant barriers for female, for example, female investment managers retention in professional roles, but also for women in the academy. As for some of them, it was very difficult to get part-time positions. So not being able to take any kind of leave is a significant challenge for women who want to become involved in this industry. Who wants to become involved in any role that has to do with finance. Flexible working used to be a prohibited work in the industry up to the COVID-19 pandemic. And of course, this was one of the positive, very few positive outcomes of the pandemic. So being flexible was now acceptable, thank God. At this point, I would like to point out that there are limitations in terms of this study. We were not able to detect the long-term effects, for example, of women working in this field in the post-pandemic era. We would like to be able to interview more women in the industry, also to look at the intersection of race and being a woman, and definitely we would like to see more universities and companies involved, but this was not the case as we did not have funding and we had a very limited time to complete our study. So at this point, let me discuss the implications that we have for research and practice. Some of them, of course, since we have not completed the analysis of all findings. So adapting the flexible working policies to increase remote working across the business, but also in the academy, and facilitate the retention of females after maternity leave is one of the things that we would like to suggest. COVID-19 has allowed employees to be productive while being physically absent, so eliminating the stigma around remote working and encouraging a better work-life balance and personal well-being. So also we would like to recommend the presence of a diversity and inclusion coordinator who may facilitate the creation of formal channels for EDI initiatives and ensure the effectiveness of the measures taken by considering the feedback provided. So there's a need for a distinct EDI strategy that will surely align with the overall business objectives. This needs to be communicated effectively throughout the business with metrics to measure it and ensure its sustainability. So, participants in this study highlighted the societal expectation that regards women as primarily responsible for caregiving, characterizing them as unfit mothers if they need to prioritize their careers at some point. This was the case with me as well. I had to prioritize caregiving at some point, and rather than my career. Of course, there's no mention of men doing that. Okay, we are responsible despite all the fights that we have given all these years. Anyway, so the interviewees also reported increasing pressure for outsourcing their family responsibilities to increase their availability at work as the sector does not consider their family responsibilities and personal well-being. So we need to hire nannies, cleaners, all kind of workers that will support us because of course our husbands are not sometimes available to do that. So we need to find other people since, again, housekeeping is our concern. So although the current study provided significant insight into women's challenges in terms of their career advancement, further research is needed to explore, for example, how race affects female and possibly also male employees' career progression. So the current study, hopefully when it's completed, because we are still analyzing findings, will provide significant insights into female employees' challenges in terms of their career advancement. It may also offer more suggestions to senior management teams in finance who wish to, but also in finance, both in the industry but also in the academy, who wish to foster inclusion and reap the benefits that it may offer. So, inability to deal with this lack of the female perspectives in the finance sector may affect the performance of specific companies who tend to, but also of specific higher education institutions who tend to disregard these issues. So the overall aim is to increase support provided to female employees via, for example, mentoring, facilitating their progression to professorial roles or to senior management roles. So drawing upon feminist theory and the social closure theory, this study will hopefully reveal professional women both in the industry but also in the academy challenges in terms of their career advancement. Women are still perceived as inferior, as people still have, for example, a male finance, I mean, lecturer or a male finance advisor in the industry in a suit in mind when thinking about finance. There is still the societal expectation that regards women as primarily responsible for caregiving, characterizing them, for example, as unfit mothers if they need to prioritize their careers at some point. So this study will hopefully provide recommendations for HR managers and senior management teams in finance to help them increase diversity in their senior leadership teams as well. So at this point, I would like to thank you for your attention on behalf of myself and of my co-presenter, Dr. Nirmala Lee. Thank you so much. We'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Please don't hesitate to contact us if you need more information. And this is the reference list. Thank you so much.